Everdale is a chill, relaxed game, but let's be honest, sometimes you just gotta go fast. In this video, I've got 3 top tips for you guys to improve your Everdale experience. Hey guys, Alex here, otherwise known as Clash with Style, and today I have 3 things that you guys should be doing day to day in Everdale to improve your experience. So these things are very simple, but I'm sure a lot of you guys do not do these things every single day. So let's jump straight into it. I'm currently chilling here in my village. You'll see I have pretty much all of my villagers currently sitting in the village working away, being nice and busy. However, every morning when I wake up, I try to do a little bit of boosting. Now, this might not be the boosting that you guys are thinking of. It's a particular item that we need pretty desperately here in the village, and that is mushrooms and raspberries. These are 2 resources that are absolutely vital, especially slightly later on in the game, because they are such a fundamental part of getting dyes. And I'm sure, as you guys know, dyes are pretty difficult to come by. You find you're constantly using these dyes. My stores, and I'm sure you guys as well, always seems to be pretty depleted, so always doing this every day really does help to benefit you guys in the long run. So if you have as much nectar as I do, this really isn't going to cost you too much. Usually it only takes me about 4 to 5 minutes to clear absolutely everything, especially when I have all of my villagers currently working away. So I personally have found the best way to do this is to load up around about 4 or 5 minutes worth of nectar to then start your villagers working away. You'll see I actually have a villager currently on the wool, but that's my next tip for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave 2 of my villagers. That's the one that's building and the one that is researching on them. The rest of them we are, except for 1 food, I'm going to leave a float on the food. The rest of them we are going to start to drag over. This is personally what I do. I like to drag onto the berries and mushrooms rather than clicking each one individually, but that is totally personal preference. We're then going to go ahead and start that boost, and then we can focus in here and we can continue. As soon as they finish up, we can just keep dragging on to the next one, and that means we can speed through here nice and quickly. So I'll speed through this process and you guys will see the finished thing. Okay, and there we have it. My village is now nice and clean. I have gathered all of those mushrooms and those raspberries. It only took me just under 5 minutes, so nice and quick to get all of them, and that now means we can jump out into the valley for tip number 2. Alright, so we are now out in the valley. Now, I always like to do this thing called circling the valley. It is really simple, but it's a great technique to make sure you guys maximize your efficiency and you're always producing as much resources as possible. So if you press this sneaky little button right down there, that is going to highlight absolutely everything that is currently going on in the valley. So you guys will see we have an event going on over here. We've got a couple of constructions currently going on, and I have some wool right here. Now, what we can do is we can go ahead and we can collect that. We knew that that was collectible because we'd already previously seen it, but what I'm going to do is we currently have a boost on, so I'm going to go ahead and continuously send my villager. But this now means we can start with our circling of the valley. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to move over here from the sheep pasture to the bakery. We're going to go ahead into the bakery, and what you always want to make sure you're doing is queuing up as many items as you possibly can in every single valley building. Now, I tend to prioritize the later resources, for example the apple pie, because it's going to be a lot rarer, therefore it's going to be worth a lot more than, for example, the bread. So I usually tend to do it in reverse order. I'll always start at the end and work my way back to the beginning depending on what I can produce, but it looks like I'm going to be able to produce all apple pies here, so I'm going to go ahead and queue up 6 of them, and that now means our bakery is sorted and we can move through onto the next building. Okay, moving on to the next one. The next one we're going to be seeing is the preservery. You guys will see I do currently have yogurt. I can produce 2 of these by the looks of things. We're then going to go through to the next one I can produce, which looks to be the honey pot. I cannot produce, sadly, anything of anything else, so that is all we're going to be able to queue up, but always want to make sure you are producing whatever you possibly can in the valley, because who knows what resources you're going to need for those ships and for those auto tasks. Next up, we have the potion maker. Now, this is slightly different. If we hop into the potion maker, I usually tend to avoid the mixtures as well as the brews. brews, I always come down and I try to focus in on the tonics. Now, I actually have not unlocked all of these, but the one I want to prioritize is always going to be this one right here, and that is the Researcher's Tonic. Research is one of the most important things in the game, so whatever you can do to speed up that process is absolutely vital, and a Researcher's Tonic is a fantastic way of doing that. You guys will see I actually do finally have enough mandrakes to be able to create one of these, so I'm going to go ahead and make that. That's going to take 45 minutes, but I usually always tend to save up my potion ingredients until I can make these Researcher's Tonic. Now and again, I do actually need to produce some other potions. For example, when I need planks or bricks, I can come in here and I can queue up a couple of these to potentially help me out with that, as sometimes the builder takes those resources slightly too quickly. But when it comes to the potions, I wouldn't tend to do that like I do with all the other valley tasks, and I wouldn't fully queue up here in the potion maker. Okay, moving through now into the dye workshop. This is of course one of the most important buildings in the game because dye is needed for so many different items here in the game. Now forget about what I said previously about doing it in reverse order. When it comes to the dye workshop, red, yellow and blue dyes are your best friend. In my personal opinion, those are the only ones you really ever need to focus in on. If you find you have a surplus of red, yellow and blue dyes, then absolutely go ahead and start producing some of the other three as well as the rainbow dyes. But if you are low on red, yellow and blue dyes, 100% you should be focusing in on these. Now we did just collect those berries and those mushrooms, so I can go ahead here and I'm going to queue up as many dyes as possible. Luckily, I have been able to stockpile my blue dyes because we had a boost going on the other day, but my yellow you can see is slacking quite heavily, so this is going to need to be the next one I focus in on. And always collecting those berries and mushrooms early in the morning to then produce these all through the day is absolutely worthwhile. Continuing on our journey, you'll see we're actually so close to getting that candy shop up to level 2. We only have one task left, but if we come in here to the candy shop, I've still got a lot of work to do in my own study to unlock a lot of these other resources, but we are able to produce some jelly beans right here, only 3 of them, so we're going to go ahead and just queue them up because like I said, always try and queue up whatever you possibly can in every single valley building, and say in a couple of hours I come back on, I can collect them up and I'm going to do that same circle all the way around the valley. Next up we do have the dairy, but sadly I don't actually have any milk currently because that takes an extraordinary amount of time to produce 1 milk in your village. Okay, so we also have the toy workshop over here. Now the toy workshop is an interesting one because there are 3 items that I basically hardly ever make. That is the wooden duck because it needs a green dye, which I really hardly ever produce. We have marbles which need rainbow dye. Once again, I hardly ever make rainbow dye. And we have the wooden doll which needs a purple dye and an orange dye. 2 dyes that I hardly ever make. So those 3 items I find I very rarely make, but we have the other 3 right here. And then of course we have Wind Up Winston, who sadly I've still not unlocked, but you guys will see we are able to produce quite a few of these fancy dolls. We're able to produce a couple of these rune games and the plush toy. Now I actually have 12 of these fancy dolls at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to queue up a few of these rune games. Sadly I can only actually make 1, so I guess the rest of them we're just going to need to do fancy dolls. But like I said, always queue up everything you possibly can. I'm going to keep saying it because it's very, very important. Okay, only 2 buildings left to look through. We have the blacksmith. Now, I hardly have any iron, so we're only going to be able to produce 1 nails right there. That's not the end of the world. We're then going to come into the tailor, and you guys will see we have unlocked everything, but there's quite a few we cannot make because we're missing out on quite a few things. We can make these jackets. It looks like we're going to be able to make 6 of them, so I'm going to go ahead, queue up 6 of them. They are actually going to take 1 hour and 20, which is quite a long time per jacket, but hey, that is us fully queued up here in our valley, which is tip number 2. Tip number 3 brings us back down into the village, and it's a tip that might be a little controversial for some of you guys out there, and that is this guy right here, Otto. So I have actually talked about Otto in quite a lot of my videos, and I actually made a video previously on upgrading Otto and how I think that would be an awesome update idea. Whether the Everdale team will implement that, Who knows? But if we jump into our Otto, there are always going to be two different resources you're going to be able to get from him: gold and potion ingredients. Now, my primary focus is always potion ingredients, and you'll see this morning I actually went ahead and I claimed a couple of those because they had mandrakes in them. If you ever see any mandrakes here in Otto, 100% try to complete those tasks, because like I said, getting that researcher's tonic is absolutely awesome when it comes to speeding up your study, and Otto does usually have them here in his store. However, Otto doesn't just finish there. If you guys are able to complete him every single day, he is actually going to be able to give you a very nice amount of scrolls each and every day. I believe between 100 and 200 scrolls per day, which if you total it up, is going to add an astronomical amount to your study. Now, I have been slacking. I personally have not been completing Otto every day, and I'm probably suffering the consequences now, as I'm a little bit behind where I would like to be currently in my study. But for you guys out there who have been completing Otto every single day, fair play. You guys know it really can make a difference. So that is tip number 3. It's one that you guys do not need to do, but is one that I would recommend if you do want to try and speed up your research progress. And that does bring me to the end of this video. Hopefully these 3 very simple tips help you guys to understand that Everdale really is not a very complex game, as long as you just put a little bit of time and effort into it. Also, if you guys have not already checked out my previous video talking about the best ways to use gems, I would highly recommend doing so, because if you ever get any gems in the game, it's really important you try to use them as efficiently as possible. So I will leave a card for that right here so you guys can go and check it out. Also, while you're at it, let me know down in the comments, do you have any of your own personal tips that you think would help the Everdale community to improve? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like on the video, subscribe as well for more Everdale content, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.